Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here to a video about the top 10 worst designed Pokemon in the 5th generation. Now, the problem here is that there aren't just a few poorly designed Pokemon in the 5th generation. There's a lot. The Pokemon you see on your screen right now, these guys didn't even make it on the list. I could have easily gone like 20, 30 Pokemon for this list, but I decided to cut it down to a top 10, including evolutionary lines and similar Pokemon. That way, I wouldn't be here all day, and we can keep the list nice and short. Now, unfortunately, because of all the generation wars, 5th generation fans versus 1st generation fans and stuff, I have to note that I am not in any way nostalgia blind or catering to the 1st generation or earlier Pokemon generations. That Johto is my favorite generation, but then Kalos is my second. That I like 6th generation more than the 1st generation of Pokemon, so I do find the newer Pokemon generations very appealing. That Klefki and Dunsparce are two of my favorite Pokemon. That a lot of people don't like these guys, but these Pokemon I adore, and just shows it's not that I appeal to earlier generations or certain designs more than others, just that 5th generation killed my love of Pokemon because of the designs, and it did that for a lot of fans, and it was kind of a struggle to get through the 5th generation, but then the 6th generation brought me back, so we're all good to go. So let's start off with number 10, Heatmor. Heatmor's design, man, like, I don't understand it at all. And for some reason, it has a literal tailpipe and, like, air filter wrists and stuff. And its head isn't even a shape. It's just a thin noodle-looking thing. And let's just not even talk about what's going on right there. I mean, there's even parts in the anime where, like, what the hell is this? This isn't a Pokemon. This is some form of abomination. Now, here's the thing. In no way am I hating on Ken Sugimori. He is one of the greatest video game artists and one of the best concept artists ever, and many people love him. But come on, man, this design right here. And Heatmor was just a Pokemon I did not enjoy encountering at all when I was playing through Black and White. Number 9 is going to be Dynamo and Electric. Now, these Pokemon, I like Electros. I think it's a pretty neat Pokemon, but these two, to get to that Electros is almost not worth it. I mean, Electric looks like just some kind of horrid creature, and it just doesn't feel like a true Pokemon to me. And Dynamo is just some kind of blobby shape that happens to be like a mini eel fish thing. I'm not really a fan of the designs the way that these Pokemon come out. These designs, they kind of fall flat, and that's going to be true with the rest of the list, that when you look at it, you don't think, that's a cool Pokemon, or you don't even think that it's a Pokemon at all, and these two, they're on the list because of that. Number 8 is going to be Conkeldurr. This Pokemon just looks dumb. I don't like any of its other forms. I don't know why a Pokemon needs to be wielding, like, concrete pillars and girders and stuff. I don't really know why, but also it just looks dumb. Like, what's that thing sticking out the top of its head, and it looks like a stupid clown, and that's just, it doesn't have a solid design at all. It just looks like a really derpy, dorky Pokemon, and even then, the name, like, I feel like there's a bit too many R's. That, I personally say Conkeldurr because it's Conkeldurr. It's a pretty derp-looking Pokemon, and the name is just too many R's. So, yeah, the Conkeldurr, it was a Pokemon that I didn't like. No one likes it. Like, the fighting types are really weird. That's veiny, and it's just, ugh, I don't get it. It looks like some kind of weird clown thing, and it throws cement at you for some reason. It just doesn't make any sense. Number 7 are going to be Sawk and Throh. Now, these Pokemon are just awkward. I mean, we got, like, some skinny dude that's trying to be an agile fighter, and then some fat grappler dude, and that's the thing. They're guys to me. They feel way too much like people to even be considered Pokemon, that whenever I encountered these guys for the first time in the game, I just sighed, and that's pretty much true for everything on this list. When I ran into it, I'm like, another kind of jank design. I don't want to use this. And the sad thing is I had to end up using Sawk to get me through a lot of the fights because it's pretty good with sturdy ability, and it had a good amount of offenses, so it was a really strong Pokemon to have early on. But I mean, why do these Pokemon have clothes? It's hard to imagine these Pokemon coming to existence as creatures in the Pokemon world. It seems like people just threw on paint and stuff and like, I'm a Pokemon, I'm gonna punch things for no reason. Like, they have actual belts and they have clothes and stuff. It doesn't make sense. Even then, the designs are fairly uninspired. Like I said, it's just some skinny fighter dude and a bald grappler fat dude that's small and pudgy. I don't get it. And there's really nothing with the designs that makes them feel like Pokemon. Next up, we have number 6, Klink. Not only is the name kind of lame and just it's two metal things hitting each other, but I mean the design. What is this? These are two gears. It's a gear that you just slapped a face onto, like an O-face emoji or something. It just looks like a miserable Pokemon with a miserable existence. I mean, it doesn't even have a left eye for some reason, and it's just two stupid looking face gear things that rotate around each other, and that is their existence. It's a miserable, miserable Pokemon, even then when we get to Clang and Kling, it's not much different. You're just adding more gears to the same two stupid gears to begin with. Like, it's just weird, and it feels like we're getting to an issue about the 5th generation, that they feel too people inspired, that we end up making it to where Kling and Clang do our bidding. They become our machines in the Pokemon world, and that just feels wrong. But also the design doesn't feel like it's anything. It's an inanimate object that goes beyond any other inanimate object in Pokemon. It's just two gears that rotate around each other, somehow gain sentience just to be abused and understand their miserable life. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Number 5 is going to be Seismitoad, and Palpitoad, and Tynamo. Just let's go with this whole evolutionary line as well. That these are some of the ugliest frog things I could imagine. Like, why are these in Pokemon? We look at Seismitoad and Palpitoad, and they just look miserable as well. That all they are covered in warts, and Palpitoad doesn't even have arms. Like, these are some of the most pathetic looking Pokemon. Even then Tynamo, it looks completely dumb. Like, none of these Pokemon seem like they have any reason to belong in Pokemon as some kind of cool beast you fight with. That these things are just abominations, and I don't feel that there's any design with them. And it's not like frog Pokemon always have to look bad. I mean, the 6th generation Salvagent, Greninja. Now we have a Ninja Frog thing that actually looks pretty cool. It's swift, it's agile. But when we're left with Seismitoad, it's just a blob covered in warts. Like, that's not impressive or cool at all. Alright, number 4, we have Basculin. The reason why Basculin is so high on the list, or so low depending on how you look at it, is because the design is incredibly uninspired. Game Freak took the idea of a piranha, gave it pinstripes, some spikes, and sharp teeth, and said, there's a Pokemon. And it's right up there with Love for just Pokemon that they don't do anything. They don't look like they do anything, they have nothing to them whatsoever. I mean, even the art, like if you collect the cards, you know, trading cards, they're supposed to be your possessions of that Pokemon. There's nothing cool about the Basculin trading cards. They have the same blank expression, and they have no action to them whatsoever. Even in the anime, there's no way of making this Pokemon look like it has any form of feelings or any form of design to it whatsoever. That Basculin is so uninspired, it actually makes Magikarp look complex. Basculin is just a fairly lifeless Pokemon, and the design very weak as well. For number 3, we have Pokemon whose designs I have been outspoken about in the past. I do not like the Monkey Trio at all. This is when I realized that the 5th generation was going to be a struggle when you walk into the gym and you're going up against elemental monkeys and they're just really sad looking. There's nothing cool about the design for any of them, in any of their forms. The red one is so strangely designed that it can never be intimidating in any way. The blue one, it just has a weird design to it overall, and it's always looking way too happy, and it just has no cohesion whatsoever. And don't get me started on the green one. Don't give me that thumbs up. Nothing is cool about you. Nothing is cool about this entire situation. And I feel it shows another problem with the 5th generation. Either everything's too complex or has to have too much meaning to it, and it ends up falling apart. These Pokemon don't really mean anything to me because they don't have anything going for them, even once you get past all their story and the way they interact and that there's supposed to be some kind of lore behind them. Compared to this, I find a lot more complexity in Ambipom and Apom. That's just how I feel. It's not that I hate monkeys, you know? Infernape's a cool looking Pokemon. You can do the design right, but I feel that the design was played out by then and they just ended up throwing it away with some terrible looking monkeys. Number 2 are going to be the Goth evolution Pokemon. Now, we're starting to get in some serious territory. This is the second place when it comes to all of the worst Pokemon in the 5th generation falling into place. I decided to put these here because that is an ugly baby, and the overall aesthetic of these Pokemon is just very not appealing in any way whatsoever. Now when we look at Gothitelle, it's some kind of just weird Pokemon that's a play on Goth, but it just looks ugly and wrong in so many different ways. And like I said, with Gothita, it's just this weird, baby, pudgy, stupid looking thing. I'm running out of creative descriptive words here because these Pokemon, they're just uninspired, they're dumb, they're silly. This is just an ugly design. Like, this whole trio is just freaking ugly, and it makes no sense whatsoever. What's Gothitelle's design doing? Why does it look like stacking cups? Pokemon should never be compared to a stack of cups in any way whatsoever. That's Gothitelle, and the rest of the evolutionary line is still just as dumb. Number 1. So now let's get on to the worst designs in the Unova region, in my opinion, and that's just going to be the Genie Trio. Now I know they are the forces of nature, but I don't want buff dudes riding clouds in my game of Pokemon. That not only are they bad for the metagame, which isn't even what this video is about, the designs just look really bad. Like, when I first saw them, I'm like, Why are there gross old people in my game? Why am I having to collect these things? I feel that for the idea of genies, it could have been done better. Like, I do like the Therian forms. Turning them back into animals makes them look cool, but doing it like this, they just look like weird old guys, and it creeps me out. The overall design is like weird, that they take the same template, they slap different colors on it, they make it look a little different, and then they call it a new Pokemon. That just shows, like, overall the designs, they just never felt like Pokemon to me for the 5th generation, and that was a lot of them. Like I said, there were so many on this list I could have included, which is why we're going to get to the honorable mentions. That you might have noticed that I went this far without mentioning the ice cream Pokemon, the garbage Pokemon, and whatever the hell Stunkfisk is. Most people consider these just the worst Pokemon designs ever, even. And that's just because they look terrible. I mean, okay, why do we have edible looking Pokemon? What is Ice Cream doing in the Pokemon universe? How did Ice Cream evolve in some kind of situation to become a sentient being, to become some kind of creature? Where did this happen? How did this come into existence? It's just dumb. And I mean, I'm not even hating on it just because it's ice cream. Look at the face of the one on the left, and the one on the right has a straw sticking out of it. Like, they look stupid. They have stupid expression. Garbodor is an exploding trash bag. Trubbish is still a pile of trash, I think also holding another pile of trash. And Stunkfisk is a flat, miserable thing. That there's no salvaging these designs whatsoever, and by comparison, I've already proved, you know, I like the 6th generation, I like the 2nd generation. 1st generation isn't this huge deal for me where I'm some nostalgia blind fool. I find Muck to have a lot more feeling and effort put behind it than even Garbodor. I can't tell you exactly why, but that's how it is. The designs of the earlier Pokemon just made more sense, and then these tried to expand upon them, overcomplicate them, and then you just get worse, uglier Pokemon, and that's just a shame overall. So that's going to be my list of the worst Pokemon in the 5th generation. A lot more than 10. I had to do evolutionary lines, similar Pokemon, and then I even had like another 10 or so that I had to leave out because there's just too many to talk about. I need to let some other terrible Pokemon designs shine in this case. So guys, enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.